Imagine you move into like a beautifully restored century-old house. You've got the original hardwood floors.
Oh,
the
yeah, the intricate crown molding, all that history.
Exactly, all the history. And then you go out and buy this massive state-of-the-art, ultra-smart refrigerator.
Right.
You wheel it into the kitchen, you plug it into the wall, and instantly the 1920s electrical wiring just completely blows a fuse.
Yep, sparks everywhere.
Right, because you
Right.
cannot simply plug the future into the past and, expect it to run. And today, we are taking a single highly potent source. It's a recent Technology Digest covering a piece from Technology Review about agent-first process redesign.
Such a great piece.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're using it to uncover why plugging artificial intelligence into our current jobs is just a total recipe for failure.
It's a disaster waiting to happen, honestly.
Yeah. So our mission today isn't just to talk about, what AI can do right now. We are going to explore what it actually means to tear out that old corporate wiring and rebuild your workflows from the ground up.
Which is huge. And, to ground us in the source material, the central premise here is that we are crossing a fundamental threshold in business right now.
Like a point of no return.
Exactly. We're moving away from this reality
Yeah.
where artificial intelligence is just a passive tool, right? Like a calculator waiting for you to punch in an input.
Right.
And we're entering this era where AI becomes an active, autonomous participant in the actual architecture of a company.
Okay. Let's unpack this because to understand why a total workflow redesign is even necessary, we first have to look under the hood of the technology itself.
Yeah, we have to define the terms.
Right, because the text draws a really sharp line between outdated, static, rules-based systems and this completely new era of AI agents.
Yes, the agents.
But I think if you ask the average person listening, they probably just view an AI agent as, I don't know, faster, smarter software.
Which is a huge misconception.
Right. So what is the actual underlying mechanism that separates a true agent from, the software companies have already been using for the last 10 years?
Well, the difference really lies in the capacity to reason and adapt.
Yeah.
It's not just about executing a task anymore.
Okay, so reasoning over execution.
Exactly. Because historically, enterprise automation relied really heavily on RPA. That's robotic process automation.
Right, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's everywhere. But it's a completely static system. It basically operates on an infinite series of hard-coded if this, then that commands.
Like, if X happens, do Y.
Right. So if a vendor invoice arrives in the inbox, route it to accounting. If the invoice is over, say, $10,000, flag it for the department manager.
Got it.
It only knows what a human engineer explicitly programmed it to know.
So it's kind of like a train on tracks. I mean, a train is incredibly powerful and moves heavy loads really fast, but...
It can only go exactly where the steel tracks have been laid down.
Exactly. If a boulder falls on the tracks, the train doesn't just, steer around it. It just stops.
It completely halts. It throws an error code and basically waits for a human to come clear the path.
Right. And that rigid system, it lacks any kind of contextual awareness.
None at all. But when we talk about AI agents, we're talking about systems where a large language model is actually acting as the reasoning engine.
Ah, okay. So it's thinking, in a way.
Basically, yeah. When an agent encounters that boulder, it isn't following some pre-written script. It dynamically processes the environment.
So what does that look like in a business scenario?
Well, say that same vendor invoice comes in, right? But the vendor, for whatever reason, unexpectedly changed their file format. They went from a standard PDF to this really complex XML file.
Oh, that happens all the time.
And the old static software, it just crashes.
Because it wasn't programmed to read an XML?
Exactly. But the AI agent, however, it reads the error, it uses its reasoning engine to understand that new file structure, and it autonomously writes a quick Python script in the background.
Wait, it writes its own code?
Yes, it writes a script just to parse the XML, extracts the necessary data, and keeps the workflow moving.
Wow. Okay, so instead of a train, the AI agent is more like an intelligent off-road vehicle.
That's a great analogy.
You give it the destination, and if it encounters a washed-out bridge, it just evaluates the terrain, finds a shallow spot in the river, and drives across.
It is navigating the workflow entirely autonomously.
Which is wild.
And what's fascinating here is the real implication of that autonomy. Because the true leap forward discussed in the source isn't just about computational speed.
Right. It's not just doing the same thing faster.
No, the real leap is the dramatic reduction of human oversight. Because for decades, our enterprise technology has fundamentally just been waiting for a human to press next,
Oh, man. Always. Waiting for an approval.
waiting for a data fix.
Waiting for a file conversion.
Exactly. But the AI agent doesn't wait. It interacts with the data, it calls external APIs, it accesses internal databases, and it executes the entire workflow from end to end.
Right. But let me push back on that a little bit.
Sure.
Because that brings us to this massive contradiction in the corporate world right now.
Okay, let's hear it.
So companies are spending billions of dollars, literally billions, acquiring these off-road AI vehicles. I mean, every earnings call is packed with executives bragging about their AI investments.
Oh, absolutely. It's the ultimate buzzword.
Right. Yet, if I look at the actual operational efficiency of these companies, things are absolutely not running flawlessly. We are not living in some utopian business environment.
Not even close.
Which leads directly into what the text calls the Frankenstein problem.
Yeah, the Frankenstein problem. That is the core trap of the current adoption cycle.
So what exactly is it?
Well, companies acquire these brilliant dynamic AI agents, right? And then they drop them directly into outdated, fragmented legacy structures.
Structures that were designed entirely around human limitations.
Precisely.
So what does this all mean for, the people listening? If I'm a department manager and I fight to secure the budget for the absolute cutting edge AI and I just plug it into my current operational pipeline, you're saying I'm doing it.
You're doing it completely wrong.
But how is that a failure? Surely introducing a highly intelligent tool makes a bad process at least somewhat better, right?
Actually, no. It creates a catastrophic bottleneck.
Hey, really?
Yeah. To understand why, you have to look at why our legacy workflows were designed the way they were in the first place.
Okay.
We created departments and isolated data silos and endless approval chains because, well, humans have strict limitations.
That makes sense. We get tired.
We get tired, we make data entry errors, we have a limited span of control.
We have biases.
Exactly. So we built a system of speed limits and checkpoints to mitigate all that.
We built the entire workflow to manage human error.
Yes. And the source gives this really concrete business example of a severe supply chain disruption to illustrate this.
Okay, let's walk through it.
Imagine a shipping container full of critical components is delayed at a port somewhere.
Very common scenario.
Right. In a traditional legacy setup, the inventory software flags the delay. A human analyst sees the flag and emails the procurement manager.
Okay, step 2.
Then procurement emails the vendor to find an alternative. The vendor replies, 2 days later.
Because they're also human.
Right. Then procurement fills out a purchase order and routes it to finance. Finance reviews the budget, approves it, and sends it back. This whole thing takes days, sometimes weeks.
And if that company decides to, quote-unquote, implement AI, they usually just use the agent to draft those internal emails a little faster.
Exactly. Or maybe they have the AI autofill the purchase order for the human procurement manager to review.
Which is basically forcing that off-road vehicle to drive on the train tracks.
Yes. The agent still has to stop at the finance approval station and wait 3 days for a human to physically review the document.
Even though the AI agent probably already securely queried the real-time financial ledger in milliseconds.
And already knew the budget was cleared, but it still has to wait.
I see the mismatch now. The workflow itself is the limitation, not the technology.
Exactly. You've given the AI the capacity to reason, but you've stripped it of its authority to act.
Because theoretically, the agent could have spotted the shipping delay, cross-referenced a global supplier database, checked the internal budget, negotiated a new price with a backup vendor via an API, and rerouted the shipment in, 4 seconds.
It absolutely could have.
But it couldn't, because the company mandated that a human manager had to sign a PDF at step 3.
Right. So you get a marginal improvement in efficiency. Maybe the human writes the email slightly faster, but you entirely miss out on the transformative power.
You just end up with a slightly faster, incredibly expensive, totally broken process.
Yes, the Frankenstein problem.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. If taking AI onto old systems suffocates the technology, then we are back to our 1920s house.
We are.
You cannot just change the wall outlet. You have to rip out the drywall, pull out the knob and tube wiring, and completely rewire the electrical grid.
Which brings us to the text's primary solution.
The agent first, redesign.
Exactly. It is a ground-up reconstruction of how a business operates.
Yeah.
You stop asking, how can AI help my supply chain team execute their current tasks faster?
Right, because that's the wrong question.
Right. Instead, you have to ask, if I had a team of autonomous agents, what is the most direct, frictionless path from a delayed shipment to a resolved delivery?
Which means basically bypassing the human silos entirely.
Totally. The traditional departments dissolve in this model. An agent-first architecture relies on specialized AI agents interacting directly with core data lakes and crucially interacting directly with each other.
AI talking to AI.
Yes, the logistics agent detects the port delay, instantly pings the finance agent to verify contingency funds,
And the finance agent algorithmically verifies the parameters.
instantly approves it, and the logistics agent executes the new order.
I mean, I have to admit, as logical as that sounds, it also sounds utterly terrifying from a management perspective.
That's horrifying for a lot of leaders.
I mean, you are telling executives who have spent decades climbing the ladder of these rigid departmental structures to just demolish them. You're removing the safety net of human oversight.
You are.
If the finance agent makes a calculation error or hallucinates and instantly approves a $10 million purchase order, the company is on the hook.
Absolutely.
So how does a business actually survive handing the keys over to the software like that?
It is a massive strategic risk, and the source material really does not shy away from the friction this causes. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, an agent-first redesign requires a fundamental shift in management philosophy.
And shift to what exactly?
Managers must transition from managing the process to managing the outcomes and the guardrails.
Okay, what does that look like in practice? How do you manage guardrails if you aren't physically looking at the purchase orders?
It means humans stop defining the how and start obsessing over defining the parameters.
Give me an example.
Okay, in our supply chain example, the human executive establishes the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Maintain a 98% on-time delivery rate. Then they establish strict mathematical guardrails.
Yeah.
The agent has a maximum budget variance of 5%, and it can only execute orders with pre-vetted, fully compliant vendors.
Oh, I see.
The human role shifts from being a cog inside the workflow to being the architect and governor of the entire system.
You monitor the parameters, and you let the interacting agents determine the best path to achieve the outcome within those boundaries.
Exactly.
Let's apply that to another area because I think everyone listening has experienced the nightmare of a legacy customer service workflow.
Oh, universally despised.
Right. Like, if I have a complex issue with my internet provider, I get dumped into a tier 1 chatbot that doesn't actually know anything.
Did you try restarting your router?
Exactly. It fails, it transfers me to a human rep, who then puts me on hold to call a field technician, who then has to open a ticket with the billing department to issue a credit.
It's just a fragmented maze of disconnected systems.
So an agent-first redesign of that telecom company wouldn't just be like installing a slightly more conversational chatbot.
No, not at all. The system would be architected, so the customer-facing agent has autonomous authority to interact with the internal network diagnostic agent, the scheduling agent, and the billing agent simultaneously.
All at the same time.
Yes. You tell the agent your router is dropping packets. The agent instantly diagnoses the hardware fault remotely.
Wow.
It queries the inventory agent to confirm a replacement router is in the local warehouse.
Okay.
It queries the scheduling agent to book the truck roll for tomorrow morning and interacts with the billing agent to proactively prorate your bill for the days you experienced an outage.
That is incredible. It resolves a multi-departmental crisis in the time it takes to just process the text prompt.
Exactly. The human latency is completely erased.
But I mean, that level of structural redesign is going to cost millions of dollars.
Millions.
And will cause massive internal friction. So why endure the pain? Why shouldn't a company just, wait 5 or 10 years for someone else to figure out the best practices and then buy the off-the-shelf software once the dust settles?
Because waiting is the fastest path to obsolescence.
Really? You think it's that dire?
I do, and the source outlines this perfectly. The payoff of an agent-first redesign is not merely about cutting operational costs or reducing headcount. It is about achieving an unprecedented structural level of agility.
Right, agility. But agility is a buzzword we hear constantly,
Right.
Let's ground that. What does true agility look like in this context?
Think of it as organizational reaction time.
Okay.
When the next global macroeconomic shock hits, or when a competitor drops a revolutionary new product that completely upends the market, a company running on legacy human workflows will take months to react.
Oh, yeah. They have to form exploratory committees.
Task analysts with pulling data from siloed systems,
Hold weekly executive meetings to debate the findings.
and then eventually restructure their strategy.
Well, the agent-first company
Adapts on the fly.
just immediately.
Their systems simply recalculate the route. The interacting agents dynamically reallocate marketing budgets, adjust supply chain contingencies, and rewrite operational scripts based on the new market data in real time.
That is wild.
And the Technology Digest makes a very sharp aside here. This transformation is not a question of if, but when.
It sounds less like a casual software upgrade and more like a high-stakes race for survival.
It really is.
It kind of reminds me of the transition from on-premise servers to cloud computing, or even like the early days of e-commerce.
Yes, perfect examples.
The companies that tried to fiercely protect their legacy systems didn't just lose a little market share, they were entirely wiped off the map.
Because they were competing against entities with fundamentally different reaction times and unit economics.
Yeah.
You simply cannot outcompete an agent-first organization using a workflow bottlenecked by human checkpoints.
They will just outmaneuver you in every single operational metric.
Every single time. The possibilities are entirely dependent on a leadership team's willingness to embrace profound, uncomfortable change.
Well, we have covered incredible ground today. We started by dissecting the underlying mechanism of the technology, looking at how large language models have shifted automation from those static, rule-following tracks to dynamic reasoning agents capable of navigating off-road.
Such a crucial distinction.
Yeah, and then we explore the Frankenstein problem, analyzing exactly why bolting these autonomous agents into legacy, human-centric workflows suffocates their potential and just creates expensive bottlenecks.
A very expensive mistake.
Right. And finally, we broke down the hard reality of the agent-first redesign, the painful but necessary process of tearing the house down to the studs so you can build an architecture where specialized AI agents can seamlessly collaborate to solve complex problems.
It's a huge shift.
It really is. And whether you are a business leader making sweeping strategic decisions, an employee trying to figure out why your daily tools are shifting so rapidly, or simply someone fascinated by the evolution of technology, understanding this dynamic is your shortcut. It is how you stay informed and anticipate the changes, as the very nature of corporate structure is reinvented entirely around you.
And as we consider that reinvention, this raises an important question. One final thought from the source material for you to mull over on your commute today.
Ooh, leave us with something good.
Well, we have talked extensively about internal agents collaborating, right? Your logistics agent talking to your finance agent, or your customer service agent talking to billing.
Right.
But consider the immediate horizon. What happens when your agent-first company needs to interact with an external vendor or a competitor?
Oh, wow.
We're rapidly moving toward a future where human procurement managers are no longer calling human sales reps. Your company's purchasing agent will autonomously interface and negotiate with a supplier sales agent in milliseconds, executing complex contracts via API.
That is mind-bending.
So will the future of corporate strategy simply become designing the psychological framework, the risk tolerance, and the negotiation parameters of your AI to relentlessly outwit the AI of your rivals?
Wow. We might literally be leaving the era of human corporate strategy and entering the era of agent-to-agent diplomacy.
It's entirely possible.
Well, you can try to plug the future into a 1920s wall outlet, or you can start wiring a foundation built for what is coming. Thank you for joining us on today's deep dive. We hope this sparked a few aha moments and gave you a new lens to view the technology rushing toward us. Keep exploring, keep questioning the workflows around you, and we will see you next time.